Let me begin with a paradox that quietly rules the modern mind. The more you try to solve life, the more complicated it becomes. Most people move through the world as if life were a riddle, a puzzle, a malfunctioning machine that needs constant fixing. They analyze every emotion. They dissect every decision. They overthink every mistake. They strategize every moment as if existence were a problem set handed to them by some cosmic teacher. But life is not an equation. It is not a crossword puzzle. It is not a code to crack, nor a mystery to decode. Life is not a problem to solve. Life is a reality to experience. When you treat life like a problem, you shrink yourself into a solver, anxious, pressured, tense, always waiting for permission to finally start living. But when you treat life as something to be experienced, you expand into a presence, curious, open, unburdened, free to participate in the unfolding of each moment. This shift is the beginning of wisdom, how you learn to overthink existence. You weren't born with the belief that life must be solved. Watch a child. They don't treat experiences as dilemmas. A puddle is not a problem. A question is not a threat. An unknown is not a burden. A mistake is not a crisis. A child simply is. They explore. They play. They respond. They flow. But somewhere along the way, you were taught that living wasn't enough. You were taught to win, succeed, control, predict, plan, fix, maintain a perfect image, have answers for everything. Life became a performance. You became a performer, and the world became an audience you constantly feared disappointing. But beneath all that conditioning, the child is still there. The one who once experienced life without needing to solve it. The one who remembers that freedom is found not in answers, but in presence. The mind that constantly tries to improve everything. You live with a mind that wants to improve everything, including things that don't need improvement. You try to improve your emotions instead of feeling them. You try to improve your relationships instead of being honest in them. You try to improve your future instead of living in your present. You try to improve yourself instead of understanding yourself. Constant self-fixing is constant self-rejection. You're not broken. You're not incomplete. You're not failing. You're simply alive, which means you will feel deeply, change constantly, grow unexpectedly. Life isn't malfunctioning just because it's moving. It's supposed to move. The river's twists are not errors. The ocean's waves are not problems. The clouds shifting across the sky are not signs of chaos. Movement is not imperfection. Movement is life, the ego that wants safety through certainty. The reason you treat life like a problem is simple. The ego believes certainty equals safety, and so it tries to solve everything. What if this happens? What if it goes wrong? What if I regret this? What if I'm not enough? What if the future falls apart? The ego hopes that if it gathers enough information, enough caution, enough preparation, you'll finally be allowed to relax. But that moment never comes, because certainty is not peace. Certainty is prison. The ego wants clarity before it acts. Life offers clarity through action. The ego wants guarantees. Life offers opportunities. The ego wants to predict the path. Life reveals the path through participation. You cannot think your way into living. You can only live your way into understanding. The ego resists this, but the truth remains. Uncertainty is not a problem. It is the space where life happens. Life is not a straight line. It's a spiral. People become exhausted because they expect life to be linear, a clean progression from confusion to clarity, from fear to confidence, from weakness to strength. But life is not linear. Life is a spiral. You return to similar themes. You face similar emotions. You meet familiar challenges in unfamiliar forms. This is not failure. This is refinement. A spiral deepens even as it circles. You are not going in circles. You are going deeper, into understanding, into truth, into yourself. The mind sees repetition as a flaw. Life sees repetition as a teacher. And when you stop treating repetition as a problem, you begin to understand what it's trying to show you. The peace that comes from letting things be. Peace is not the result of solving life's puzzles. Peace is the result of letting life be life. You don't find peace by rearranging your circumstances, but by loosening your grip on them. You don't find peace by forcing clarity, but by making space for things to be unclear. You don't find peace by protecting yourself from every emotion, but by allowing emotions to move through you like weather. Can you imagine seeing sadness without thinking it's a problem? Feeling uncertainty without treating it as danger? Allowing rest without calling it laziness? Experiencing stillness without interpreting it as stagnation? Life stops feeling heavy when you stop judging every experience as an issue to be fixed. The wave rises. You let it rise. The wave falls. You let it fall. Nothing else is required. The beauty of not knowing. Consider this. If life were something you could solve, if every unknown were answered, every mystery explained, every uncertainty removed, would it still feel alive? Would you still feel wonder? Would you still feel curiosity? Would you still feel awe? Life is beautiful precisely because you do not know what will happen next. This isn't a flaw. This is the magic. The sunrise is beautiful because you don't control it. The ocean is beautiful because of its unpredictability. The night sky is beautiful because its vastness remains beyond comprehension. Your life becomes beautiful the moment you stop demanding that it be predictable. You don't need an answer for every feeling. Most people aren't suffering from life itself. They're suffering from their interpretation of life. A feeling arises, and immediately the mind pounces. What does this mean? How do I fix it? How do I stop it? Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? The emotion wasn't the problem. The problem was turning the emotion into a problem. A wave only becomes painful when you try to hold it still. Sadness is not an error. Fear is not a malfunction. Loneliness is not a diagnosis. Confusion is not a breakdown. These are human experiences, meant to be felt, not solved. The moment you stop interrogating your feelings as if they were unwanted intruders, and instead welcome them as passing visitors, you reclaim your peace. A cloud does not need therapy to drift across the sky. Your internal weather needs space, not solutions. The exhaustion of constant self-improvement. Somewhere along the way, self-help became self-harm. You started believing that every moment must be used to optimize yourself, your productivity, your habits, your body, your skill set, your emotions, your personality. Improvement is beautiful when it grows from love, but when it grows from fear, it becomes prison. Ask yourself honestly, are you improving yourself because you want to grow, or because you secretly believe you're not enough yet? When you treat yourself as a project, you never arrive. There's always another flaw, another weakness, another upgrade, another version of you that seems more acceptable than the one standing here now. But you are not software. You are not a machine. You are not a problem to optimize. The flower is not trying to become a better flower. The bird is not chasing the best version of its wings. The sun is not striving for personal growth. They simply are, and their being is their beauty. When you allow yourself to simply be, you rediscover the peace that striving steals. The ego loves problems because problems make it feel important. Here is something subtle that few people realize. The ego loves problems. Problems give it purpose. Problems give it identity. Problems give it drama. Problems give it something to obsess over. The ego doesn't know how to exist in simplicity, in presence, in peace. So it invents complexity. It magnifies tiny issues. It creates imaginary threats. It dramatizes neutral situations. It turns everyday life into a psychological battlefield. Why? Because the ego feels alive in conflict. But you, your deeper self, feel alive in stillness. The ego says, "This is a problem." Presence says, "This is just life happening." The ego says, "Fix this immediately." Presence says, "Let this moment be." The ego says, "You're not safe until everything is solved." Presence says, "You are safe here now." When you recognize this contrast, your world becomes lighter. Not because problems disappear, but because the ego stops creating them. Life is a dance, not a test. Think about the last time you truly felt alive. Not proud, not accomplished, not validated, but alive. Chances are it wasn't during a moment of solving, it was during a moment of experiencing. Laughing unexpectedly, walking in fresh air, hearing a song that moved you, watching someone you love, feeling the warmth of sunlight, letting yourself cry, losing yourself in a conversation, touching something beautiful, witnessing something tender. These moments were not problems. They were invitations. Life is not testing you. Life is inviting you to participate, to witness, to express, to feel, to explore. You are not here to pass some cosmic exam. You are here for the dance. Presence is what you've been searching for. You believe you're searching for clarity, purpose, success, peace, confidence, happiness. But beneath all these desires is a single longing: to be present. Every goal is secretly an attempt to return to the present moment. Think about it. Why do you want success? For the feeling of enoughness, which exists only in the present. Why do you want clarity? For the relief it brings, which is felt only now. Why do you want love? For the connection, which is experienced only here. Every pursuit is a chase for presence. But presence is accessible without the chase. You don't need a perfect life to feel alive. You need a present mind to feel life. Turning life into a problem makes it unlivable. A moment arises, and instead of living it, you evaluate it. Instead of breathing it, you analyze it. Instead of feeling it, you judge it. This constant evaluation strips life of its softness. A meal becomes calories and guilt. A relationship becomes expectations and fears. Work becomes identity and worth. Rest becomes laziness and shame. Joy becomes suspicion and overthinking. The moment becomes a problem. And eventually, life itself does. But life isn't meant to be examined to death. It's meant to be touched, savored, felt, risked, entered, experienced. Imagine tasting a strawberry while mentally calculating its nutritional profile. Imagine hearing a song while analyzing its chord progression instead of feeling its emotion. Imagine watching a sunset while worrying about whether you're productive enough. This is what happens when life becomes a problem. You stop living, and the only cure is returning, again and again, to the simplicity of experience. Let the strawberry be a strawberry. Let the song be a song. Let the sunset be a sunset. Let the moment be a moment. Let life be life. The wisdom of not figuring everything out. The mind fears the unknown. But that fear doesn't mean the unknown is dangerous. Not understanding something doesn't mean it's wrong. Not having an answer doesn't mean you're lost. Not knowing the future doesn't mean it will be bad. Life becomes gentler when you allow some things to remain unanswered. Mystery is not the enemy. Mystery is the beloved. It is the part of life that keeps your eyes wide, your heart open, your journey alive. You do not need to figure everything out. Life is figured out as you live it, step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment, the truth you avoid. Some things don't need solving. Sit with this for a moment. Not everything uncomfortable is a problem. Not everything painful needs a solution. Not everything confusing requires clarity. Not everything uncertain needs control. Some things simply need to be felt. Some things simply need to be witnessed. Some things simply need time. Some things simply need space. Life is full of moments that can't be fixed but can be lived. Yet the mind hates this. It prefers action over acceptance, strategy over surrender, analysis over presence. But the deepest relief comes not when the situation changes, but when your relationship to it softens. Sometimes the wisest thing you can say to yourself is, "There is nothing wrong with this moment except my belief that it should be different." Let the moment be what it is before you decide what to do with it. You are not here to manage life. You are here to meet it. Somewhere beneath all your obligations, beneath your plans, beneath your fears, beneath your responsibilities, beneath your ambitions, beneath your thoughts, there is a presence that simply wants to meet life as it unfolds. Not manage it, not control it, not improve it, not fix it, just meet it. The sunrise doesn't need your commentary. A breath doesn't need your correction. A moment of silence doesn't need your productivity. A feeling doesn't need your judgment. Life is constantly offering itself to you. The question is simply, will you meet it, or will you try to manage it? When you meet life, you participate. You witness. You respond with clarity. When you manage life, you restrict. You tighten. You force outcomes that were never meant to be controlled. Life becomes gentle when you stop trying to rearrange it. The secret. Life solves itself when you stop interfering. Have you noticed how some of your biggest worries eventually worked out without your intervention? The conversation you feared turned out fine. The problem you obsessed over resolved itself. The tension you carried softened with time. The situation you overthought unfolded naturally. The path you doubted revealed its purpose. Life often fixes what it creates, if you stop interfering long enough to let it. Your anxiety doesn't fix the future. Your overthinking doesn't prevent pain. Your control doesn't guarantee success. Most of the time, it only interrupts the natural intelligence already working on your behalf. A bird doesn't need to plan its flight. A flower doesn't need to schedule its bloom. A river doesn't need to map its journey. Life knows what it's doing. Trust is not blind faith. It is cooperation with reality. The burden you can finally put down. Here is a weight you can gently release. The belief that you are responsible for making everything go right. You are responsible for your effort, your honesty, your presence, your choices. But you are not responsible for every outcome, every perception, every reaction, every twist in the path. You cannot carry the world. You were never asked to. Put down the burden of controlling the uncontrollable. The moment you do, you will feel something unexpected, something ancient and familiar. Relief. Not because life became easier, but because you finally stopped fighting the current. You don't need to control the river. You need only to float. And floating is not giving up. It is allowing yourself to be carried by something larger than your fear. Life is experienced, not mastered. Mastery is not control. Mastery is intimacy. It is knowing the texture of each moment rather than trying to manipulate it. It is being in your life instead of thinking about your life. It is tasting your meal instead of judging your hunger. It is hearing music instead of analyzing lyrics. It is holding someone's hand instead of worrying what the moment means. It is crying without telling a story about it. It is laughing without explaining why. To master life is to be touched by it without needing to solve it. Life is not conquered. Life is received. And the deeper you receive it, the less you need it to be anything other than what it already is. The closing meditation. Let life be life. Take a deep breath. A slow breath. A breath that belongs to no purpose other than being what it is. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands rest without intention. Now, imagine your mind as a vast sky. Thoughts appear. Let them appear. Do not fix them. Do not fight them. Do not follow them. A cloud doesn't ruin the sky. Feelings arise. Let them arise. Do not interpret them. Do not judge them. Do not turn them into a personal puzzle. A wave doesn't break the ocean. Life is happening. Let it happen. Let it unfold exactly as it is. You are not here to solve the sky. You are not here to fix the ocean. You are not here to upgrade the moment. You are here to experience it. Feel the breath entering. Feel the breath leaving. Notice how nothing in this moment needs to be different for it to be complete. Life is not a problem to solve. Life is an experience to feel. Life is a presence to meet. Life is a dance to join. Let life be life. Let you be you. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. Nothing needs to be solved. Just be here. Fully. Softly. Honestly. Living. Not solving.